In the popular imagination, the dodo is a punchline, the global symbol of evolutionary failure, a bird too fat to survive its own environment. This assumption rests almost entirely on 17th-century European oil paintings. These works portrayed a bloated, squab-like creature that seemed physically incapable of escaping a predator. But those paintings are a record of overfed captive birds and artistic guesswork. Many were copied from inaccurate sketches by artists who had never traveled to the Indian Ocean. For 400 years, we have analyzed a caricature rather than a biological reality, focusing on a myth to justify a human-driven tragedy. Separating the myth from the animal requires setting aside the 17th-century brushstrokes and focusing strictly on the surviving remains. Paleobiologists now employ 3D bone scanning and genome sequencing to analyze the dodo's true physiology. The actual bones reveal a structure with a pneumatic sternum, thick-walled legs, and a lithe, upright frame that bears no resemblance to the bloated paintings. The artistic myth was validated as scientific fact in the 1860s, as early naturalists attempted to reconstruct the bird's skeleton for the first time. Anatomist Richard Owen used the flawed 17th-century paintings as a literal stencil, forcing the skeletal elements to fit inside a bloated, ghosted outline. He tilted the pelvis and splayed the legs to fill the imagined belly, creating a squat, clumsy posture. 3D laser scans of complete skeletons show a different creature. The dodo was an upright 39-pound athlete with a robust pelvis designed for speed. While the captive birds in Europe grew obese on unfamiliar diets, the wild dodo was an agile, fast-running specialist of the Mauritian forest. 25 million years ago, the dodo's ancestor was a standard flying pigeon native to Southeast Asia. This lineage reached the volcanic island of Mauritius through millions of years of island hopping across the Indian Ocean. In an ecosystem with zero mammalian predators, the dodo underwent island gigantism, eventually abandoning the high metabolic cost of maintaining flight muscles. It developed powerful legs for navigating dense underbrush and a massive 9-inch hooked beak capable of cracking the toughest endemic seeds and nuts. This evolution was an upgrade. The dodo became a ground-dwelling giant that dominated its predator-free paradise. However, millions of years of isolation created a lack of evolutionary awareness. The dodo possessed no instinct for fear because it had no natural enemies. While sailors easily clubbed the fearless birds, dodo meat was notoriously tough. Hunting alone wasn't the primary cause of their collapse. The true killers were the invasive black rats, feral pigs, and macaques that escaped from human ships and swarmed the pristine forest floor. Dodos laid only 1 egg per year in nests on the ground. They were physically and mathematically defenseless against these invasive nest raiders and the rapid destruction of their forest habitat. The dodo's biology did not fail. Rather, its ecosystem was subjected to a sudden, human-engineered ecological blitzkrieg. By 1690, less than a century after the first documented human contact, the dodo was entirely wiped off the face of the earth. Although the scientific world didn't fully grasp the concept of human-induced extinction for another century, the dodo eventually became the global icon for the realization that humanity can permanently end a lineage. In 2022, a major breakthrough occurred when scientists successfully sequenced the complete dodo genome from a preserved specimen in Denmark. This genomic data transitions the dodo from a historical tragedy into a proving ground for 21st century conservation science. Colossal Biosciences is now leading a well-funded mission to attempt the first avian de-extinction. The process involves CRISPR gene editing and primordial germ cell technology to reconstruct the bird's genetic blueprint. The mission relies on the Nicobar pigeon, a flying relative that shares a common ancestor with the dodo. The technology developed for this project serves as a critical testbed for preserving today's most vulnerable bird species before they reach the point of no return. The dodo has evolved into a symbol of biodiversity's fragility, serving as a permanent warning for environmental management and a beacon of hope for conservation.